Hey everybody, how's it going? This is the sixth video in my Neo Geo AES manual series. So we got 5 AES manuals to take a look at, all in English. So let's get started with number 1. 3 count bout, also known as Fire Suplex. This is a wrestling game, 106 megabits in size. So right away we look at the inside cover and we have color. Part of the 100 Mega Shock series. A lot of the early games that were over 100 megabits had the 100 Mega Shock logo in the attract mode. And the controls. And here's what the game looks like. Graphically, it's very impressive. Everything about the game is big. The characters are big. Everything feels like everything's up close. Oh, and here's something interesting. This screenshot was actually was recorded on a Japanese system because it has the Japanese name on it, Fire Suplex. So you have different options to select in terms of match length and, of course, difficulty. And you can pick between one-on-one, or you could also have tag team matches, which is a great feature. And there's a lot more to just the standard wrestling matches as well. You have different wrestlers to pick. I think it was 8 wrestlers to pick. No, 10 wrestlers to pick from. Excuse me. I'm like looking at this from afar. It's been a while since I played this game anyway. So some of the wrestlers in this game are palette swaps of one another. That I can tell you. That's right, because you have 4 stages in this game. You have your standard wrestling match. You have 2 street matches which take place in some back alley parking lot, and you also have a death match where the ring ropes are electrified. Then you have your master the basic movements. And then you have your lockups. I will tell you the toughest part in this game is winning the lockup. It's like you lose most of the time. I know that I think it was Silver Wings 21 mentioned something as a way to win the lockup. You have to beat up your opponent first with some strikes before you lock up. And I think he said that's like the best way. It's the best way to win. And then when you do lock up, use the joystick in combination with the buttons, or you could just use a single button to perform different types of maneuvers, body slams, throw them to the ropes, kind of stuff you would have from other wrestling video games like Pro Wrestling on the NES. And when the opponent's down, you could put them in a sleeper, pick them up, pin them, maneuvers off the top rope. Get out of a tight situation. Here we're talking about tag team matches. What to do when you're waiting to be tagged in so you can recover your power. I've actually never played tag team matches in this game. And then when your partner's being pinned, what to do to break up the pinfall. And to tag in your partner. And then these are kind of like our hardcore style matches. You use weapons such as crates, tables, barbed wire bats. I mean, there's some wrestlers that have weapons of their own as well. I think one wrestler, I'm trying to remember the name. I think Leo Bradley uses like a chain anyway. That's like part of his normal arsenal. And of course, this has memory card save, which you're probably going to need. Like I said, it's very tough. I mean, sometimes I can win the first match, but after that, I might be lucky to win the second match before I just get my butt handed to me afterwards. And it follows the Japanese rules when you're outside the ring, a 20 count. Street matches are you win by knockout if you can't answer a 10 count. And now we're going to move on to the roster. They have all their attributes based on durability, easy to handle, popularity, speed, and all the different moves that they can execute. Here we got Terry Rogers, most popular star. Yeah, he's probably like your Ric Flair. He has that long hair, Ric Flair, Lex Luger type. 6'4", 225. His power blow is the Fire Suplex, which is the name of the title, Japanese name of the title. Here we have the Red Dragon, who uses Poison Breath. He's kind of like the Great Muta. It definitely is based off the Great Muta. The Gandhara. Also, the wrestlers that you fight in this game, you're fought in a specific orders. Like the Gandhara is your first opponent. And then Leo Bradley, or Led Bradley. Yeah, sometimes there's typos. I always call them Leo Bradley. Yeah, the Change Hulk Hogan, because that's one. Because he actually uses a chain as part of his arsenal. So, yeah, he's a cheater. He's a heel. Big Bombardier. We got Blubberman. Now these are some of the more palette swaps. Master Barnes. We got Bruce Hablum. And we're at the end. Instructions on handling your memory card. And the do's and don'ts of handling your cartridge. And we got more artwork here at the end, which is nice. And some color artwork. The SNK Wrestling Federation. And that is 3-count bout, aka Fire Suplex. Okay, so the next game on this manual, I should say, is Riding Hero. I just picked this up a few weeks ago. I had heard the stories about how difficult this game is, but I bought it just to give it a shot. This is one of the earliest titles for the Neo Geo. So the early Neo Geo manuals are not as in depth as the later games. Like once you get into about the second or third year into the system, is when you start having a more detailed manuals with more screenshots. So Riding Hero, I guess it's like Neo SNK's answer to Hang On. So in order to move on to a race, you got to finish in third place or higher. You have your accelerate brake, and you also have a button for turbo speed. There's like an indicator that lets you know how many times you can use it during the course of a race. And it has a story mode. It has an interesting story mode where you move around town, you talk to people, and you get into races to win money. So you could buy upgrades, you could buy better motorcycles. It's a cool feature. But what I mentioned in a previous video, in my live chat video, is that what makes this game difficult, I felt, is the width of the track, the road. It's like very little room to maneuver around other bikes and vehicles that you have, and vehicles as well that you have to dodge. So any little thing you're gonna get knocked over. So these are some of the main characters in the story mode. There's a lot of dialogue involved, so it's kind of like an RPG mode in a sense. I know a few sports titles on the TurboGrafx had something like that with games like Final Lap Twin and World Court Tennis. Let's move on to the next page. Game contents. I haven't really put a lot of time into this because it just frustrated the hell out of me. I think I was like, I could win one race, but then after that, I get so close, but then just at the end, I just, my luck runs out. This is the map screen. You can go to different parts of the town to talk to people to enter races. You have to put up money though in order to race other riders. Buying screen, you win races. You can upgrade to better bikes. Here's another story mode. So this is right here. You could see how narrow that road is. And when you have to dodge other bikes, other vehicles as well, and then you have billboards and stuff and poles, it's really hard. You have to be so precise, knowing when to brake, when to steer at the right moments to avoid hitting anything. It's really tough. It's really tough in my opinion. Let's move on. More story mode. Hamburger shop. Hospital. And here's some artwork. Riding Hero. Multiplayer mode. Yes, this is one of the few Neo Geo games that has a link cable where you can have two-player action on two separate systems. A few other games that use the link mode was Thrash Rally and League Bowling. I believe those are the only 3 games that I know off the top of my head. This is like how you would have to set up the Riding Hero communication mode. You need 2 systems, 2 games. That would have been a challenge back then. To find 2 people that have Neo Geo AESs with this game. And once again, the early Neo Geo games refer to them as cassettes and the Neo Geo rental system. And that is Riding Hero. So next, we see Alpha Denshi, later ADK. We're going to move on to World Heroes. And World Heroes is definitely one of the better known fighters for the Neo Geo. And the story is about Dr. Brown inventing a time machine to summon fighters from different eras throughout history to determine who's the greatest. And they are based on real life people. The controls here, we have Hanzo and Fuma. The controls are very simple: punch, kick, and throw. And the punches and kicks, the strength of it depends on whether the buttons are tapped or pressed, kind of like the pressure pad system from the original Street Fighter. So this actually works well. With these were ported to other 16-bit consoles, Super Nintendo and Genesis, which works since the limited number of buttons. Like the Genesis, for example, only had 3 buttons plus start. Although I mentioned that in a video years ago, the Genesis port of this game is god awful. And here's a screenshot of the action. Hanzo and Fuma at Fuma's stage. If it continues, you continue 3 times. Afterwards, you can save your progress on a memory card, or if you have a joystick plugged in on the second player side, just use your credits there. Now we get into the fighters, their age, what they do, and their specials. So Hanzo and Fuma are like your Ken and Ryu, because World Heroes is one of the few fighters on the Neo Geo that bears a strong resemblance to Street Fighter 2. There's not many. For me, I feel like this, Fighters History Dynamite, Breaker's Revenge, those are the only titles the only fighters on the Neo Geo that are similar to Street Fighter 2. Most of the other fighters do their own thing. They're considerably different gameplay-wise. Here's one of my favorite characters, Kim Dragon, or here he's just called Dragon, later called Kim Dragon, based off of Bruce Lee. He used to fight to become a movie star. Bruce Lee reference. His dragon kick, that's one of my favorite moves in this game. I just love the outline of the dragon. I remember seeing that back in the days, and that just was so impressive. Here we have Jean, based off of Joan of Arc. Here we have Jay Karn, who's based off of Genghis Khan. I think throughout the series, I think there's a change in his first name from Jay, because I think here it's Genghis, and then Julius Karn. I know there's like different variations of his first name. And here we got Muscle Power, pro wrestler, 38 years old. Given that the time this game was released, he's based off of, Hulk Hogan, brother. He was, about the same age. It came out in 92, so Hulk Hogan actually turned 39 that year. He was born in 53. So that's right at the age of Hulk Hogan's actual age at the time this game was released. Here we have Brocken. I looked up, he's actually based off, I think he's based off some, oh geez, I don't want to say something and I'm wrong. I think he's based off some kind of anime or manga or something. Now, dress-wise, you might think, oh, he looks like M. Bison, but gameplay-wise, he actually plays like Dalsine because he can extend his limbs. It's kind of like Inspector Gadget and a fighter. Rasputin, who I could tell you is one of the easiest characters to use in deathmatch mode. You could just breeze through the game with him, with his accelerator spin. You could just lure your opponent into the traps, and we'll get to that in a bit. Because we have the game modes, the normal mode. What gives World Heroes its identity is the deathmatch mode. In deathmatch mode, you have traps laid out in the arena, whether it be the ring ropes are electrified, fire, or you might have arenas where the walls have spikes, or you might have landmines, and plus some of the floor in certain spots are slippery. So the way you win those matches, you want to try to lure your opponent into those traps, which is pretty easy to do. And here we have Gigas, who's the last boss. He is, I'll just give you a little bit of insight. He's like the T-1000. He can morph into any of the other fighters. And we're at the end of World Heroes. And of course, we go from World Heroes to World Heroes 2. And World Heroes 2 definitely adds a lot more to its predecessor. The heroes return with 6 new contestants. So the same cast returns from the first game, plus 6 new fighters. And then you also have a new final boss as well. Here we have Hanzo again. Maybe we have Hanzo twice. The controls are the same. Punch, kick, slam. Strength of attacks depends on whether you press or tap the button. Here we have Captain Kidd, one of the newcomers. World Heroes 2 was ported to the Super Nintendo and the PC Engine arcade CD. I will eventually get to doing a comparison video of each of these each of these versions. There's stuff I want to say right now, but I don't want to give it away. Now, they did make a really big change to the deathmatch mode, which I'll get into in a bit. Normal mode's the same. Now, the unique feature with the deathmatch mode this time is the seesaw gauge, where you have where both players have one long life bar that has an arrow that moves back and forth depending on how much damage you inflict. And once the arrow reaches one side, then the fighter's knocked down. Once the fighter's knocked down, you have to answer a 10 count, because in the deathmatch mode you have a referee in the background. So you have to get up, you have to answer the 10 count, or else you're knocked out. So it's like elements of, you can see, boxing. And also the deathmatch mode has new types of arenas, new hazards, mines, beams of electricity. There's saws. You have oil, an arena where the floor is flooded with oil. You have an oil match, so it's like slippery throughout the entirety of the arena. And this is your screenshot for normal mode. And this is your deathmatch screenshot. You can see the single life bar, which seesaws back and forth. I don't know if you could see it. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can see where the health bar is. Okay, so you see where like that line is? That's how you know where your health is. So like once it reaches one side to one end, then your opponent's knocked down, and you'll be prompted to get up before the count of 10. So now we get to the cast of characters, returning guys, Hanzo. Let's move this back. And I think this time here in the character profiles, they tell you what year they're from. So they're based on the 16th century Japan. There's also some new features here as well in the gameplay wise. You can now deflect projectiles if you block it at the very last moment. And once you deflect the projectile, your opponent can deflect it right back to you. You can almost have projectile ping pong. And once you deflect it back, the speed of the projectile increases. So you have to time it right. Another addition to the gameplay, tactic you can use is reversals. You can reverse a throw. So if you're about to get thrown by your opponent, you can actually counter right back and counter with a throw yourself. Yeah, so they're both Hanzo and Fuma from the same era. Kim Dragon, era 1967, which yes is Bruce Lee, and this time he has this full name. And we have John the Ark. I think that's John the Ark. And she's from the 15th century. And we have Jay Karn. Here we have Muscle Power. Now Muscle Power, his portrait has been revised, so he doesn't have the mustache to avoid any copyright infringement from Hulk Hogan. And of course the year 1984. As we know, that's the year Hulk Hogan won his first world title. And his height and weight is also consistent with Hogan's height and weight, 135 kilograms, which is about 300 pounds, 200 centimeters, so that's like 6'7". So that's like consistent with Hulk Hogan's build, height, and weight. And there are extra. Some of these fighters do have extra moves. New moves were added for some of the returning fighters. He's based here. He's 1922. Rasputin, I believe, is the 19th, early 20th century. I was going to say 19th century. Now we have some of the newcomers here. Shura, it's a kickboxer. 18th century. Eric the Viking, who, yes, uses an axe. It's such an unfair advantage, seriously. Here we have Mudman. Here we have J Maximum, who is based off, I believe, Joe Montana, 1989, which, yeah, the 49ers won the 4th Super Bowl that decade. They won in 81, 84, 88, and 89. Ryoko, who is from 1992, so she's like the only fighter that's from modern times, and I believe she is based off a real fighter from that era. I don't know the exact, I think her name was also Ryoko, the person that she's based off of. Captain Kidd, who is one of the tougher opponents in this game. He has so many projectiles he could throw at you. He's one tough cookie. The shark upper and his boat attack, where he unleashes like a ship as a projectile. And it doesn't help that his deathmatch arena is just the hair shaving, so there's no actual traps to lure him into. And attention on taking care of your cartridges. That is World Heroes 2, and the last game last manual we're gonna look at is World Heroes 2 Jet. Jet indicates faster speed. So yes, there are more. The gameplay was altered again for this sequel. The Raz meter. You can now taunt in this game, but taunts don't really serve any real practical use. But you can actually fake a dizzy to try to trick your opponent. That's one of the new maneuvers you can do. So you now have 16 characters. You have the same 14 characters. All 14 characters from World Heroes 2 return, plus 2 additional selectable fighters. Now, the game mode is very different this time. Unfortunately, the signature feature of this series has been removed for Jet, and that is the deathmatch mode. So now you have entry to the tournament and the Forging of the Warriors. We'll get to that in a bit. The Tournament of Titans mode. So what happens here is that you fight opponents in groups of 3, and the objective is to try to win 2 out of the 3 matches before you move on to the next group. And then once you clear that, then you have some one-on-ones before you get to the final boss. You have a bonus game. The bonus game is, I guess, reminiscent of Karate Champ. You have the bull or the ox. And you have World Heroes Training Stream. This one is kind of like, it's like a shortened version of the game, where you can actually select your opponent, and you just fight a series of matches. It's like a shortened version of the arcade mode. And you have a competition mode. This is for 2-player action. You have your attacks, same thing, the strength of your attack depends on whether you tap or press the button. Your body throws. Now, some of the additional moves, you can dash and retreat. That's where Jet comes from. And also, going back to World Heroes 2, the gameplay speed was also increased, because the first World Heroes game did move a bit slow. Sometimes it felt really floaty, especially with slower characters like Brocken. But World Heroes 2, the game speed picked up more, and it picks up a little bit further here. Here I play Possum. This is, you could fake a dizzy and then trick your opponent by attacking them at the last moment. You can once again deflect projectiles to your opponent, and they can do it right back at you. Have that projectile pong and the Raz button. Like I said, I don't think that the taunts really serves any purpose. The Tournament of the Titans, where you fight in different arenas across the world. And you have your cast of characters. And now we move on to the characters and the moveset. And yes, the moveset has been expanded considerably here for this sequel, especially Akanzo and Fuma have a lot more specials in this game. So that's one good thing, that they expanded the moveset. But they should have left deathmatch mode in there. Another thing that happens in this game as well is that two players, you can actually attack each other at the same time, and if that happens, you both kind of like bounce back. You have Kim Dragon. So yeah, the moveset has been expanded on drastically. Now, the one thing though we still don't have in this series up to this point are desperation attacks. Still none. It's not until the last entry in this series, World Heroes Perfect, where you finally had desperation attacks. What they should have had, considering by this point, this game was released in '94. There were numerous Neo Geo fighters, Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury 2, Fatal Fury Special, that had desperation moves. So at least I would say by at least this entry in the series, there should have been that option. That should have been available to the fighters. There's Shura, Eric. Okay, this time though they don't show what time period they come from. The Mudman, the Johnny Maximum, Ryoko, Captain Kidd. I see they have her body measurements. I think that's also the case with John. Let me go back to her. Yeah, except that she's wearing armor. Okay, so now we have the two newcomers. Jack, we assume his name probably based off of Jack the Ripper. He uses a lot of claw attacks. He's actually a pretty cool fighter to use. And Ryofu is the other newcomer. I don't use him that much. I mean, I haven't played this game in a long time, I'll be honest. But when I do play it, I do use Jack. Okay, instructions on your memory card. It's standard for each game. Epilepsy warning. Notes on using your cassette or cartridge. Gotta take care of these suckers. And I reside in a fist of God. I think that's one of the bosses. And that is World Heroes 2 Jet. And that concludes this latest edition of the Neo Geo manuals. So 5 more games, 5 more manuals that we've taken a look at. To recap, 3-count bout, Riding Hero, World Heroes, World Heroes 2, and World Heroes 2 Jet. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.